Hello and welcome to the Inverted Castle, a Metroidvania podcast. I'm Thomas Blight, a creeping corrosion in your flesh that will slowly take you over, with my co-host Eric Fox, who will one day purify me and rid the world of me.
You knew I was going to be the one to take you down after all these years.
And we're talking about Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights.
Shh. Be quiet. It's night.
Wrong night. It's the Kniggets.
Oh, you cannot say that on the internet.
That's fair.
Yeah. Developed by Adglobe and Live Wire and published by Binary Haze Interactive. This was a 2018 release, I believe? Or is it later?
No. Where are you getting 2018? 2021.
I was thinking of a different game. My mistake.
I don't know. It's weird because it feels fairly contemporary with Hollow Knight to me in my head.
That's probably it, yeah.
But apparently not, because it was coming out pretty close to when we started this podcast.
We could have done it first, but we did not.
That's true.
Instead, we picked that other largely monochromatic and color scheme game. Or at least I did. But what's this game about?
I mean, stop me if you've heard this before. You go into the ruins of a once great but now lost civilization.
Yep.
Man, how to actually describe this game? Because, at the beginning, you're just you're a little girl who's all white for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up with no memory of who you are or why you're there. And it seems like everything has gone to shit, except you have a, ghost swordsman bodyguard.
Who's just, vaguely helping you out. He is your main attack for the beginning of the game and is also trying to, guide you, out of this place, or at least to figure out what's been happening, because there's this corrupted rain that's happening. There's this thing called the Blight, which is just a generic evil plague.
Yeah, well, it's like a zombie virus of some sort.
Yeah.
It seems to corrupt people while they're still living, rather than, animate the dead.
Right. In fact, it is something that is used to prevent death, in a sense. You will not stop, is the basis for these immortal knights.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that's a great idea. Can't possibly see how maybe we should turn all of our knights into zombies could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, so there are no longer any sapient beings, we'll say, left in the entire kingdom. And, you're kind of left to explore, find out what happens, purify these corrupted spirits so that they can move on. This is also how you gain additional abilities.
And you're also, following the path of the previous white priestess, which is apparently what you are.
Yes. There's a bit going on in this story, but you had a predecessor that you're more or less trying to find, and who is kind of the linchpin of what's currently going on, as well as some bad history with the kingdom itself and the king. But yeah, that's the general shape of it, is exploring the ruins of this castle, from the snowy mountaintops to the grungy catacombs and the verboten domain even further below. There's not a huge amount of variety in terms of its aesthetics. This is all rot, ruin, decay, death. But there are some subtle differences between the areas, and it certainly is one of those games that, it's only hitting one note, but it, in my opinion, hits it masterfully.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I really liked this game overall.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I guess I would call it, vibes-wise, feels very much in the same kind of Souls-like vein, right? We're doing this, doomed kingdom, shadow of its former self zombies thing that is very much in the vein of Dark Souls itself and Hollow Knight, but it's, other than that you have limited healing, not a Souls-like.
No.
Right? There are no mechanics that make it a Souls-like.
No, even dying, you don't even have a blood stain to go back to. You just keep everything, other than having to start back from a checkpoint. It's very forgiving in I think this game ultimately ends up being more hopeful than the Dark Souls games, but only barely, and that's only really true end.
Yeah.
Certainly there's no hope for anyone currently still in the kingdom, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's all sorts of weird classifications people describe things by, and I guess this is noble dark, right? It's like, bad things are happening. Everyone is struggling against these bad things, trying to make them not happen, and things are looking pretty grim, but there is actually hope that the main character is able to deliver.
Yeah, and also the themes of innocence bearing the weight of sin of those who came before, despite having no culpability themselves. It's just, they're the ones who can, and thus must, and are also, by various characters in the narrative, taken advantage of in certain ways. So, like, there's definitely a lot of real tragedy. Like, I think every cutscene with the bosses you fight are all characters who had reasons to become deathless knights, which eventually led to their eroding humanity that you had to put out of their misery and purify the blight within them so that they could move, their spirits could move on.
Yeah.
In order to put these things to rest, someone basically needs to like end the nightmare and stop the cycle of that the kingdom had started with the white priestesses and cloning and all this abuse of this foreign magic.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was decent narratively. It does a lot of telling the story from the perspective of the boss that you just defeated.
Yeah, through memory.
Yeah, which I thought was a good way to do it.
It's like posthumous, like after you've killed the monster they become, you get the vision of who they were as humans. And this will vary from sisters trying to protect the other to the bastard son swearing revenge on the king who discarded him.
Yeah.
And all of this told in like monochromatic illustrated scenes. And set to really somber but respectful piano heavy music. Gonna get the music out right now.
Fair. We do always forget to talk about music.
I think the tone in this game is immaculate. Again, hitting the one note, but very well. And for the record, they hit more than one note. There's like 88 keys on the piano, and they use all of them.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. I don't know. I did find the tracks where there was actual singing a little surprising.
Oh, like surprising in what way? Like that it existed?
Yeah, I guess so. It's like, I don't know. For some reason, I am a little anti actual words in background music.
Like, do you not like Persona then?
I have not actually played one of the Persona games, but I'm going to go with maybe. I hated it in Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, what one was that?
I don't actually remember what the song was.
Like, I know they had a Leona Lewis song on the credits, but I don't think that counts.
Yeah, but, I mean, there's not that much of the singing in there. It's just like, I think the Hamlet involves humming and la-la-las, and then the credit songs are actually words.
Sure, yeah. It like if there were lyrics in any of the background songs, I didn't notice. Mostly it was just like the choral, like the choir or female vocalizing type stuff. A la la la, I think, can go a long way, and certainly, yeah, this one is not so much like the heavy dour action, just a melancholy, which I think suits its aesthetic quite well.
Yeah, and then in terms of traversal abilities, I would say this is not amazingly, like, doing anything out there or wildly interesting, right? Like, you've got your double jump, you've got your dash, you've got a grapple hook. I mean, a real minor note about the grapple hook thing, like, it uses fixed points.
Yes.
But its points, and I can't decide if this is bad. I guess I'm leaning towards it's bad.
Okay.
Its points kind of just look like background elements before you have it. So, like, once I got it, it was like, what can I backtrack to? And I was like, I don't know. I don't remember if there were these tiny little hooks anywhere.
Yeah, I did, like, before I got the grapple hook, I did see that background element in a bunch of places that seemed like there's something far above that I cannot currently reach. And so I just kind of, figured there'd be some way to interact with it because they are uniform, but subtle.
Yeah, there's the wall cling and wall jump. Going through this, I was like, I'm totally going to get the ability to fly at some point. And then I was surprised that I did not.
No, you get an optional ability to kind of, like, you have, like, this claw guy that kind of raises you up. It's not one of the main abilities, but one of the sub ones. which is necessary for like one goodie. But outside of that, yeah, the grapple points, double jump, air dash, another air dash, that's also optional. So, like, the problem that you're mentioning with the not remembering the grapple hook, I think is somewhat mitigated by a system that this game uses on its map, which I think is fantastic for if you want to go back and 100% things, which is it'll just color in map squares that you've fully completed.
Yeah.
If you've gotten everything in that room, you never have to double check there because the game will tell you you're good, buddy.
Though, I mean, that does remind me that I've heard complaints about its map even before playing it of like,
oh,
there's some people who really don't vibe with it's just a box.
Oh, I like it. It would be nice to have it more fit like as like a single constructed thing. But I appreciated not knowing exactly where, like, you'll know like what side of the room an exit or entrance is, but it's more vague than that. And sometimes like one connection will actually be like two different ones. And I don't know.
In some ways, found it kind of annoying for backtracking, where it was like, well, I know there's something in this block, but I also can't really perceive how big the block is, and so I really just have to try to remember where the edges of this zone was, kind of thing, to figure out what's in scope to explore.
For me, that was part of the charm, was that challenge of, okay, I'm in the room, I know it's somewhere in here, and figuring out that, I don't know, puzzle, I guess. Like, it was a challenge that didn't quite cross over to annoying to me, I guess.
Fair. Like, it didn't quite annoy me, but I can see if I was going for full completion before finishing the game, I might have been like, oh,
Right. The way I play these games is I tend to not scour the map until I'm basically at the very definitely final dungeon, just because I know that it's just the most efficient way to do it. And I also like having the fallback of if I'm really having trouble with a boss, I can then go and see if I can't scrounge up goodies I might need, but it tends not to happen.
Or, Eric, you could just be stronger going in if you backtrack all the time. I have to constantly resist the urge to backtrack constantly. I did forget the ground pound, didn't I?
Sure, like we don't need it like an exhaustive list, but
yes. But I did have a specific complaint.
Ooh, did you get lost after you got the ground pound and didn't know where to go?
I mean, I did, or like I did both the ground pound and get being able to swim, and then got lost. But
I did the same thing. This is very funny.
There are two types of red ground.
Yes.
And I feel like it did not do a very good job of communicating them. Maybe I'm misremembering, like, you needed to figure it out once you had the ground pound in water, but maybe I'm mistaken about that, and I was actually just missing another thing I needed to do.
For me, it was I got hit with the, I was in a room that was full completed and, like, had a exit downward, and there were two bits of red ground, which you need the ground pound to break in there. I hit one, and it went nowhere, and then in my mind, I'm like, okay, check that, guess I can't go that way. But there was another one a bit further down that I need to check, and it was just me being stupid.
And I mean, one way you could look at that is, hey, shouldn't this have been marked as not complete? Maybe, I don't know.
That's absolutely true. Or maybe it was not marked as complete, because there's probably other goodies in there. I'm just misremembering. But I definitely, in my mind, cataloged it as, okay, I tried going down there and couldn't, and then checked every other spot in the admittedly pretty limited map at that point.
Yeah.
But I don't know what you're talking about like different red ground. I thought that was...
Oh, so there's the regular ones where you just need to ground pound into them. Those are like black with red veins or cracks.
Sure.
And then there's the like solid red, and those you have to get momentum to hit.
Yeah, I think that was in the tooltip. Was that certain ones you need to come from a higher up.
Well,
to break through.
Maybe I somehow forgot that in the tooltip. I don't know. I was just like, I read the tooltip and then like went and tried to do things and was like, oh, why is this different? Are they going to give me a separate ground pound upgrade? And if so, I would prefer if you like made them a little more like hidden. I don't know. It's fine.
Like the concept of dropping from a greater height, more momentum. Like, I guess this game doesn't really do much with that otherwise, but I don't know. It's hard for me to say anything other than made sense to me.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
It's that subtle distinction of being on the same wavelength as the game developer. Like, they're making some assumptions, and this is one of those cases where it's not everyone's gonna play the same game, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting.
My other dumb problem is that they started talking about the verboten domain at the same time that I reached the snowier area. And so, to me, I combined those. I was like, the verboten domain is the snowy area. And then it took me a while to break that and be like, oh, wait, no, this is still inside the kingdom.
Yeah, I think the snowy area in the kingdom is talking about... It's starting to bring up all the bad shit they did in the verboten domain. So I can see why, like, that's why that's coming up there, but polar opposite ends of the map.
Yes. Like, once I figured it out, but it was like, okay, we're on our journey out to the right-hand side. Now we're talking about the verboten domain. Oh, that must be what's next. Right. It's like, oh, no, that's down.
That's down, and that's the end.
Yeah, so, I don't know. That's just a funny problem that I had.
Like, how much does that change, like, how you progressed, I guess? Or is this more or less, like, trying to understand the lore?
I think it was mostly just trying to understand the lore at first.
Gotcha.
Where I reached the first bad end and was like, aren't I in the right spot?
Yeah, that, like, it felt like it, right?
I don't actually know what that spot is now.
It's just the Eastern Spring. It's what the main priestess you're chasing through is named for. She's the White Priestess of the Fount. That's the lore explanation, I guess. And it's also where in the first and or the bad ending, I guess, it's where you as like her predecessor, or what's the opposite of a predecessor? Just a decessor. No. Whatever. You're her clone. It's fine. She basically lets you say, like, you know what? This isn't your fight. You can just leave this nightmare to us and be free. And you just kind of abandon the mystery, and that's just like a no boss and no nothing, just game end, I guess. It's the one that's just like wash your hands of it, which is, I think, important thematically to exist, but is definitely no one's going to stop there, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's also just kind of funny in that I had a bunch of misconceptions that somehow worked out. And it's like, okay, yeah? I don't know how I did this. Because for a while I also thought that I forget what the actual name of the jail is. Like, I thought that was the Abyss because it was dark.
It was certainly dark.
And I thought the text of the first ending was hinting to go there. Which, in a way, that was the right place to go.
Yes, that was next in the line of go down, down, down.
Although I believe I could have gone there before the ending of the game. Maybe I needed the boss to climb walls.
I believe it is necessary eventually, but I think you can get to the verboten domain earlier. You just can't progress all the way through. And I think you have to go through that way to get the mask that lets you not die in the verboten domain.
I don't know, that also just raises further questions, because, like, for me, the last thing before the verboten domain was the castle.
The way I got in through is through the Coven area.
Yeah, the way that you physically get into there, but I'm talking, like, in terms of progression of the game. It was like, okay, do false end, then go to the jail, then go to the castle, then use the lance ability to finally get through to the mask.
Right.
And then actually start the verboten domain.
Yes, you can get there early, but you can't really get very far through it. Yeah, you kind of jump around a bunch of places just to get the requisite abilities. So yeah, like once you get to like the far eastern end, it stops being a linear journey, really.
Yeah.
Because I was already jumping around with fast travel, which is unlocked from basically the beginning. I don't know, I didn't find it too awkward.
I had a dumb problem of every place that I chose to backtrack to first was actually locked by a door, which is the last traversal, quotes, ability that you get.
That one basically doesn't count. It's a key.
Yeah.
The last thing you get is a key that unlocks certain doors you've been seeing.
I actually kind of laughed that it wasn't even a key. I was expecting to just get a key at some point. No, it's a guy's ability to unlock doors.
Thankfully, you don't have to equip it. It's just there, but...
Yeah, you never have to equip those ones. Those are just always on.
Yeah.
Like, the down slam.
Yeah. But some of the optional ones you do, but thankfully, yeah, this one's not optional, and it's just, you now have a key.
So, like, my first, like, okay, I've just gotten the bad end. I'm going to backtrack. Hit a door. Okay, well, here's another place where there's a room I haven't explored yet. Hit a door. Okay, well, here's another place. So, I thought that was kind of funny.
Oh, yeah. I think I did the exact same thing, but also was, I don't know, I think I'm more bemused in a lot of these cases of just like, okay, can't go that way. I like immediately turn around, don't break stride.
Yeah.
Or thankfully you can also just, because there's no downside to dying or anything, you can always just from start menu return to the last checkpoint. No fuss, no muss.
That's fair. I don't know. It's just like that's a part where I feel like I wanted a little more detail from the map.
I gotcha.
Or for me to be able to mark on the map, right? Like some other things do.
Oh man, if you had the Prince of Persia style like screenshot ability,
yeah,
which I think just every game should have if they can,
right? Things like that. Like it was like, okay, it would have been a little nice to have something like that. I understand that not every game has that, but I don't know. Minor complaint.
Yeah, no, like these are nitpicks, and I whatever the opposite of nitpicks exists for like positive things. I also want to kind of like add in here and there, like again, like all the vibes, all like the way that the map will just tell you if you need to bother with this map piece anymore. A bunch of things that I think this game does quite well. The ability to just warp back to the last checkpoint without losing anything.
That's fair.
And also, this game, similar to one of my other favorites that we've talked about before, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, your main attacks, like all of the things you get, are also enemies in the game, like getting the enemy souls in Aria. In this one, there are just discrete, super powerful versions of that enemy you can find in the map, and killing them will get you their ability. There's far fewer, but they tend to be a lot more, I don't know, generally useful, I guess, or at the very least balanced.
Yeah, I guess so. And then the main skills, which are either infinite or very high charges, are all bosses.
Yes. Every time you kill a boss, you also get them as a weapon. In this game, you are a little waifish little girl, and all your attacks are summoning your JoJo stands.
Yeah, which I felt a little bit, I don't know, basic bitch, I guess, in that I switched very early on to almost exclusively using main skills and not really using the sub skills.
Oh, I did not do that.
No, for a long time, I had 2 melee main skills and the Dark Witch's slightly homing attacks on as one set, and then basically did not touch the other set. Interesting.
So, I basically swapped out every time I got a new thing just to try it out for a while. And there are a variety of like strategies that these will be better or worse for, right? Like if you want to do mostly ranged, you've got options for that. The Witch is a main skill, as well as this lobbing a big slime type thing to do some splash damage. You can summon familiars that'll just hang out for what's essentially a timer as they kind of either pelt or just run into people, independent of you, as well as melee and all that stuff, as well as counters, which in my opinion were the best.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I loved them.
I threw them away, and they are the only skills I never used.
Oh.
Or like I tried to use them a little bit at first, and then I was just like, nope, the trying to counter is less effective than just fighting normally and dodging.
So the rhythm I fell into was the very heavy main skill that does a bunch of damage, like knocks enemies back.
Oh yeah, Jared with the Great Club.
Jared with the Great Club. I found it very effective to use him, and then in between swings, like if I'm about to get hit and I can't move out or anything, panic button the counter. It's just value add extra damage in a lot of bosses, as well as just using some form of range as the final skill in that set. Tend to be pretty good. And then on my other set, I just had the dashes, uppercut, fast sword, which is your main ability, and then kind of traded that out. The claws were also very good as a very quick thing, as well as the option to charge it for the big explosion.
Oh man, I equipped the claws initially, decided I didn't like it, and then never used it again. I don't think I hit an enemy with it.
I found them very good on shield enemies because by the time it's done charging, their shield is either down or the blast is like past the block. But yeah, very minor use. I mostly stuck with club as well as then swapping to this sword for when the bosses got stunned because that was just higher DPS with that and the uppercut.
So dumb thing I did.
Yes.
I missed the first 2 Ancient Souls that upgrade the sword.
I could imagine I did the same because I did not get an upgrade for like half of the game for the main weapon. I traded it out until I did, and then it became my mainstay till the end of the game.
It was after the first bad end that I found an upgrade for it.
I think I might have found one, but it's around the same time, dude.
There's one in the jail, which is the one that I found first. So, like, my complaint about this is I feel like these could have been spread out better.
Yeah, like, it's actually lore reasons why you don't find them.
Yeah, but it's lore. Lore is cheap. Just come up with a different reason.
I don't know. I kind of actually appreciate it. Again, this is a anti-nitpick that because it kept the main sword underpowered for a while, it kind of pushed me into swapping it out for new things.
It just meant that I swapped to the hammer and kept the hammer and the Great Club on always.
I see.
Which, Great Club's just great.
It's in the name.
It feels so good to use, knocking enemies around when you deplete their stamina or whatever you want to call it. Stance? Poise? I don't even know if the game refers to it ever.
No, it's just a little bar underneath that goes down in addition to their health.
But yes, there is fall damage as well. So you can just knock people around and then hitting the floor kills them.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, I felt a little bad that I didn't experiment that much. There were rare times when I swapped out from that configuration. Last couple of bosses, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can fight them more effectively if I just put on some things that will passively attack them.
I changed my build for basically every boss, at least a little bit, because in at least one, having the bird that just passively pelted the thing with homing shots, pretty good. In another one, hitting the boss would occasionally just knock it out of whatever its like attack set was. That kind of threw my timing off, which made me then dash into it instead of dodging, or would make my counter kind of just fizzle. So I had to swap that out for that one. And also this game has like the medals, charms, whatever to have like, you can equip certain amount of passive bonuses, like extra attacks, extra heal, more charges on things.
Yeah.
You've seen these in a billion games.
Shorter cooldowns and stuff. I don't think there's any that are like super different from that to call out. That is also how you get extra heals.
Yes. There's a couple, like one that makes you just run faster and one that makes you jump higher, which could help you do some sequence breaking, but that's about it.
I guess. You get them fairly late, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's already after the first end, I think.
Okay.
I maybe you could do it better. I did do a little bit of... I don't even know if it's sequence breaking. I guess it is, because I think those are places that you would have needed the hook to get. So, the hammer...
Yes.
Pushes you backwards and up on its air attack. Very slightly, and more if you charge it.
Ooh, very good.
So I got to some places by double jumping, turning away, doing 2 full charged attacks, and then dashing into the thing to climb up.
Nice.
I don't think it ever really got me anywhere out of sequence. I think I just got upgrades before I think I got the village elder slam.
Oh, very good.
Before the hook. Does that make a difference? I don't know. I didn't use it. I was sword and boarding.
You should have used it.
I guess. I don't know. I liked the melee bread and butter.
I guess. Yeah, it got you through the game, so...
It felt good to use.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I thought this game at the very beginning was a little too floaty and, like, imprecise because, like, you are not doing your attacks. You're kind of summoning these things to do it. And I kind of, like, went in expecting a Hollow Knight-like thing, but... No, the game's a little bit different with how it approaches encounter design, and eventually I kind of just appreciated it for what it was.
Yeah.
I liked being able to, like, basically cancel one, summon into the next, mostly into counter, let's be real.
No, yeah. It was also very fun to do a fast melee into the Great Club.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could do the full sword combo and then just start the Great Club right after it.
The club is so huge. It's like goes through walls, platforms. Listen, this is a big club respect zone. As much as I love experimenting, I always went back to the club whenever I was having trouble.
The one boss that I switched it out for was Muriel.
That's like the penultimate boss in a sense, right?
Yes. Basically the second last boss. I was just like, you know what? Hanging out right in front of her nose with the hammer's air attack and just putting on things that will passively damage her otherwise seems to be the most effective strategy for me.
Oh.
So I'm just gonna do that. I put on the poison cloud. I put on the bird that shoots constantly.
And just had passive effects going while you just hung out above.
Yeah. And just hung out at her face anytime she started swiping the ground. It was easy to dash away. Also, at some point, I think putting on those effects and the ring that makes your limit break, whatever it's actually called in this game, go up faster, makes your limit break go insanely fast. And that actually kind of ruined the last two bosses for me when I realized that.
You had broken the game at that point.
In that I went from, like, Julius, the knight with the lance, who was this, like, intricate dance.
Yeah, I really like that fight.
To just like, oh, I actually can just sit in front of them, and anytime they start an attack, I have 2 limit breaks. I can just start the limit break and become invincible.
Right.
And then by the time I end the limit break, my passive damage has built up the limit break again.
That's very interesting. I know it broke the game's difficulty for you, and that's tragic, but also I'm very excited because I did not do anything with the limit breaks.
Oh, okay. I was bad at using them for a fairly long time. Julius is when I really started using them, because I just felt like sword and boarding was pretty slow damage, and weaving in the limit breaks was a lot faster.
Yeah, this is well past I'd already given up on the passive damage spirits. I'd already used them previously. The poison was fun for a while, sure. And then for whatever reason, I just never equipped the things that gave me better SP, and I kept forgetting I even had it charged up.
Yeah.
But like, that's very exciting to me that you had a completely different build and seemed to have a much easier time than I did. I had to do all of these fights several times.
I mean, it still took me a fair number of tries to get Muriel, although the last boss was one and done, and it was like, oh, okay, is that it?
Now, do you appreciate me asking how long it takes you to beat these games? Like, I know I'm not trying to flex, but
you know, I forgot to check the timer on this one. I do feel like it took me a while, but that might just be because I was playing late into the night a couple times.
Time dilation, yeah. Personally speaking, just 15 hours to get 100% Chivos on it, which is a pretty good length, I would say. This game threaded that needle for I'm just about getting tired of it, and now we're done.
I don't know. I have this funny thing where, like, I often don't really like the last zone of games. And it's like, it's dumb. It's like, oh no, this game is getting too hard. I don't like it anymore.
How dare this difficulty curve continue to rise?
Like, you've made this hard enough that I now feel the need to cheese it instead of just tackling things straight on the way I was doing it before.
Is this psychological? Like, oh, like you're so close to being done and you just want it over, and how dare they put up one more wall?
Oh, like, sometimes that's just me finally figuring out the system better.
It could have been easy this whole time.
Like, yeah. Was, like, resting on technical ability without actually understanding mechanics. Like, I think the big one for me, other than this, was in the Record of Lodoss War.
Oh, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth?
Yeah, Deedlit. In Deedlit, I hadn't been using spells.
Oh, right.
Until the final boss, which is a boss rush. And it's just way too long not to use spells. And so I was like, oh, wow. These bosses go way faster when you use spells. I wonder if I would have thought the bosses were undertuned if I had been using spells all along, right?
Yeah.
I felt that kind of feeling having figured out this strategy on Muriel and then on the final boss. Just like completely abusing the limit breaks.
Sounds like you're someone who really needs to have that arm tied behind your back a little bit. Like, some people enjoy breaking a game over their knee, right? Not you, no.
Yeah.
But also not too much, because otherwise it's just that last area in a video game, and you hate that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird complaint. I didn't actually break the environment, like, exploring as much, right? So, like, the big blobs of flesh with the really long swing attack, which probably would be very easy if I were using counters, now that I think of it.
I was just about to jump in here. That's how I beat them. It's that just does a bunch of damage. It's hugely telegraphed. Easy mode.
They were real annoying for me in that I would, like, dash into their range, throw some ranged attacks, dash out of their range, repeat.
And that area, if I'm going to be real, kind of copy and paste them quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of them.
Yeah, and they're not that different in every encounter with them. And if you die, then you have to go back through them. But
it's not that hard to dash around the enemies in this game.
It really isn't, let me tell you.
Which also kind of ruins your, like, I don't know, illusion of investment sometimes.
I guess. When you don't have to fight the enemies, you start to question what the gameplay is.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay. Maybe I don't need to be risking getting hurt all these places. I could have just been dashing past. But then it would be harder for me to explore and find the treasures.
Yeah, it's to explore. Like, theoretically, you're also getting experience or blight, and there's not much that changes on level up.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what changes on level up.
I think it's a very slight increase to attack, like your basic attack stat, which is then also, I think, included in math on all the other, like, spirits you're summoning.
Yeah.
But, like, you get health from different pickups throughout the game. You get prayer charges through other means. I really don't know, other than the game does a kind of fun aesthetic thing where, because experience is you getting more and more corrupted, your character model becomes more and more black, red tinted. That progresses as you go from level 1 to the max of 100.
I did think that was cute. Getting black streaks in your hair.
Yeah, the true end is you also having all of it, and it's not great for you, but the nightmare is over. So good job, hero. I will also point out, just while I'm thinking of it, New Game Plus is interesting.
Yeah, I didn't touch it.
So it does not remove your progression abilities, so you can, from the jump, go basically anywhere. I think you might need to get the stuff for True End again. It says some things are not included, but from what I could see, I could get right to the verboten domain from the jump.
Okay.
But yeah, what happens is they scale all of the enemies up to, like, an end game state from the very beginning of the game, and it turns the whole thing into a quasi Julius mode from Castlevania Ori Sorrow. So it becomes an arcadey style thing where killing enemies is really just for convenience. You don't really level up anymore because, at this point you're already at the end game. You can add some optional, like, difficulty modifiers for enemy damage and health. But otherwise, it was a neat approach, because usually New Game Plus is you just get your stats and then do the game again. But this one kind of starts you out with an open map, which is neat.
Interesting. Not something I think I'll be delving into, but
I ran through it very briefly just to refresh myself on the game earlier today, but it was something that I have not seen, so I thought it necessary to point out.
Obviously there's some customizability, but it sounds kind of like what the Dark Souls games were doing, is where, like, New Game Plus mostly just gives it more health and damage.
Yeah, and I think there was, like, a scaling of, like, it said New Game Plus 1 on my file, so I think successive runs through will get things harder and harder, like a Dark Souls. So scratch what we said about it not being a Souls game. In this one instance and aesthetics, it is.
I mean, I guess you could fully upgrade all of your spirits, because they don't really give you enough unless you really want to grind, and that would be a motivation to do New Game Plus. I don't know. Like,
you can upgrade most of your spirits, like, part way, but to really invest in the later upgrades, which add, like, additional swings or bullets, like, in addition to just more damage, there'll be more effects as well. You're only really going to max out, like, if you get everything, about half of your toolkit, but that's if you get everything. New Game Plus, you can get all of those pickups again. So
I definitely did not have many of the main skills anywhere close to maxing.
Yeah, like the upgrade material for them tends to be a lot rarer. Hence why I also was falling back on the other spirits as well.
This was slightly silly because I was just focusing on the same build for a long time. I was still keeping everything upgraded equally, just in case my one build ever stopped working.
That doesn't make any sense to me. You're crazy. You can, if you needed it upgraded, you could just upgrade it at any time.
No, I have to keep it spent. I don't know.
You can't even switch to it between like checkpoints. You would have to do it at the place where you upgrade it. What are you doing?
I don't know. It was just very important to me to spread everything out. Look, you gotta level everyone up evenly.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah, you were doing a challenge run, apparently.
You get your Fire Emblem, you promote a guy, and then you immediately bench him until everyone else has also promoted.
At level 20, obviously. Yeah. No, I know about min-maxing. It's just...
I don't know. Yeah.
The opportunity cost isn't there. You could just wait.
Yeah, that's fair. It didn't make a ton of sense. And generally, the next upgrade was 3 times regular upgrade.
Yeah, I've got a nitpick about you as a person. It's whatever that was.
I don't know, maybe I would want to use it.
This is the corruption you were talking about at the beginning. This is what I need to purify from you. God. Anyway. Anything else?
I mean, we can go into the deeper lore implication things if we want. I don't know, we kind of talked about the bastard son. There was some implication that the king actually maybe had wanted to recognize him, but couldn't. I felt like I was missing messages on that.
I don't recall that personally, but also that's a fairly minor, like, sub-story in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, there's some things that are not completely set in my head in terms of, like, wait, what is the order of events here? Of, like, outsiders come and they're like, hey, there are these ancients here. We're going to go to war with them.
Yeah, they're invading the ancients' domain and annexing their territory. And that's like the first sin, I guess. The first king comes here and that's the first war, and where he basically spares the first white priestess. But, of course, the ancients' curse, the blight, is still within, and she ends up being the only thing that can, like, keep it at bay. Several generations pass. The main priestess, the priestess of the fount, Phrygia, she's the third one in a line of natural-born white priestesses.
Yeah.
There's been incursions from below. The current king has been doing arcane experiments with Thaden, that researcher.
Yeah.
Develops the deathless elixir, creates his undead army as like a desperate attempt to keep it back, but also it's implied that he's obsessed with the idea of immortality himself. And Phrygia basically takes too much, purifies the blighted lord, and effectively becomes one herself. They create like 8 clones of her, who are to basically purify her, but failed experiments until you.
Yeah, the player character who, there's a note about, like, before they put her there, she couldn't actually speak or something.
Yes. She was already mute, basically put to sleep, and one of the other clone priestesses has a note about just wishing the best, wanting to be her friend, talking about her guardian just before the events. And the ancient knight, the warrior who's the first guy who wakes you up, he was like sworn to the bloodline of the white priestesses, essentially. And so that gets eventually passed down to you. That's why he's around.
Yeah, I think this is a mistaken thing, but, like, one of the things about the, like, not able to speak implication was that, I was like, wait, were you a baby when you were put under?
It's not clear. It's just, like, one random note that says you can't speak, and you're kind of already asleep, and when the game starts, you couldn't even remember before that, but you'll find your clone sisters throughout the game as well, and that's how you power up your own heal. And the end of the game is you purifying the white priestesses, who's like your quasi-mother figure, putting an end to the blight on this land. No one's left alive, but at least the evil has been quelled, and all the spirits have been released. It's just you at the end of the world.
Yeah. Is there nothing, or, like, just nothing in this kingdom?
I think it's the kingdom specifically. I don't think it's like the whole world is bereft of life, because first bad end is you leave the kingdom. There is ostensibly something out there.
There was something about there being 6 kingdoms, I think. in one of the notes.
The greater politics aren't gone into, and I think that's for the better. It's really just the one curse and the evils man has wrought. There's not like a huge amount of lore or characters, so I thought, unlike a Souls game, it was pretty parsable once you get them all.
Yeah.
But you have to get them all. And then if you read them and then watch the memories, it coalesces a bit better. Ultimately, I think it ended quite well. It nails the thing it needed to nail. Loved it.
Yeah.
But how much did you love it as we transition into the stack rank? Which, of course, we do every month. See how it compares to the rest of the games we've ever played. I'm not going to kid myself and assume that you know where you're putting it.
I didn't even open the stack rank yet. Jeez. I'm ready for this.
Don't worry. I know how ready you are, which is why I'm ready to put it exactly where I think it deserves to go. As a reminder, you can follow the link in the show description. But for me, the game I mentioned previously, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, is I think a pretty good comparison point. And while that is a classic and one of my favorites as a kid, I think this one, by virtue of having a bit more meat to its story and it committing to a narrower focus in terms of your abilities and getting the aesthetics just right for the one thing it does, I think I prefer it as a package over Castlevania. So it becomes my new number 7, just under Iconoclast.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having trouble deciding. I've had a good amount of fun with it. So I'm definitely putting it above Iconoclast.
Ooh, okay.
Which is number 11 for me currently.
Yeah, let's go through the list. How about Prince of Persia Lost Crown? A modern classic, which was, unfortunately, the studio is no longer, or not the studio, the team.
Yeah.
Is apparently no longer making a sequel, so.
I think I will put it in between there.
Oh, just outside the top 10. Sorry, Ender Lilies.
Maybe I would have appreciated it more if I had varied up my build a little more. Who knows?
Yeah, clearly, like, Prince of Persia has the one move set that it adds on. This one is more experimental, and I don't know.
I mean, I did also do the same thing in Prince of Persia, where I was very focused on the sword and boarding and not very interested in exploring other things.
That's also one where there's a counter special that I used, and if I recall, you did not.
I didn't. At one point in Prince of Persia, I was like, oh man, maybe I should go all in on the counters and like have all this like time dilation, and then this happens and that happens, and then just didn't. Went for like more attacks in your combo and more damage.
Yep, more damage is more gooder.
So
it's a fair strategy.
Maybe I'm just boring.
No. Listen, you just level everything evenly, even when you're not going to use everything evenly. Your whole strategy was literally middle of the road.
What makes a man turn neutral?
I don't know. For myself, I think we should aspire to even greater heights. But for that, we'll need wings. To become some sort of owl boy, which is going to be the next game we play. This game came out in 2016, I want to say. So, like, it'll be 9 years come November.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Like, I've actually played it, but it's been long enough that I don't remember basically anything.
I never played it the first time around, but I have heard its name.
Well, now you're going to do more than hear its name. You're going to embody it for our next episode. But if you think you know better about how to build in Ender Lilies, or about whatever games we should have been playing, tell us. We'll probably not listen, but you can do it anyway at Facebook, of course, Inverted Castle Podcast. On Twitter at Inverted Castle P. Never forget the P. Also on Blue Sky, which is, very quickly becoming the de facto standard, more so. We can only hope. As well as Gmail, I guess. InvertedCastlePodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, or the comments of the YouTube videos.
But regardless, until next time, I've been Eric Fox.
And I've been Thomas Blake.
And remember, kids, you are not responsible for the sins of the father. Sins of the mother, on the other hand, that's going to be a journey.